Well, hello there. This is Dr. Mike signing in with you again today, hoping you're keeping sweet music in your marriage. But if you're not, you just keep listening, for God's going to teach you how to do that. And once you learn this, you'll never want to go back. Believe me. Say, well, you know anybody that has great, sweet music in a successful marriage? I know lots of them, and believe you me, they would never want to go back to what they had before compared to what they're having now. So I want to help grow you into that position where you say to your friends, you will not believe what our marriage is like today. It's just a blessing, and it's growing, and it's just something to behold, even for our children. So let's continue today. First of all, did you grade your mate yesterday? Well, you may or you may not have. Remember that each of these segments you can grade from 5 to 1. At the end of which you should at least get 18. If you don't, you need some oxygen pumped into your marriage, and maybe I'm the guy that can help you there. If they're good, really good at this particular point, you give them 5. If they're not so great but okay, you give them a 4. If they're not good really, but they have some of these traits, you give them a 3. If they're poor, you give them a 4, and if you need help, you give them a 5. At the end of which you should have at least 18, or you need some real help in this matter. Okay, if we only knew what the Word of God says about treating each other in marriage, I tell you, most all of our marriages would be complete. It wouldn't be 50% wind up in divorce. It'd be 1% that would wind up in divorce. And I want you to be those that do not, but grow in this marvelous grace that God has in store for us. So now, we covered yesterday being dependent on one another in certain things. Today, it's going to sound like maybe a contrast or a contradiction, but it's not. It's how to be independent. You say independent of one another? Well, that's the choice of words we're using. Independent means that we shouldn't choke off each other's individual growth at all. Now, you know, we're coming from like 2-3 different generations at this point. I'm older than most of you, most likely. And so, you know, back when I was a young married man, now I'm a married man after 52, going on 53 years. But early on, marriage was looked at to be a little different than it is today. Most people today are too independent of one another, but there can be that magic in your marriage that makes independence just a great thing. But it's not too independent. It's just right. You say, well, how do you do just right? Well, let me explain some things to you that will help you. You must love each other, but not smother each other. In years gone by, psychologists called it the Peter Pumpkin Eater complex. He kept her in a pumpkin shell, and there they lived, you know, from that point on in a very independent scenario that was captive. Wives used to be captive by their husbands. Today, that's just not it at all. But there should be a certain amount of independence to each of us, husbands and wives. We each have separate brains and separate personalities, and we shouldn't be choking each other off to where we can't distinctly have our own personalities and have fun being who we are. And so we need to watch that so that we don't get caught up in taking the Bible and beating each other over the head with it, so to speak. That is, when it comes to the husband being the head. That's the truth. But when we understand that the head means, it's not the head corporate manager, it's not the dispal, it's the one who is looked upon by the Lord as one who leads his family in prayer. The ones that his children look up to for spiritual matters. Not that the wife and mother can't be spiritual, she can. But the one that God assigns that responsibility is the husband. And as soon as the husband of these days begin to take that responsibility, we won't have 50-60% of all of our marriages being raised by one person. I mean, the children being raised by one person. They should have a father in their marriage, and they should have a mother in their marriage. And together if mother and father grow them up in the grace of what the Word of God says about marriage, they too will prosper in this laboratory of love that you create for them. Now tomorrow we're going to continue, and don't miss it, because I've got some real truths to tell you that will help you in marriage to be a blessing and keep sweet music in it. So this is Dr. Mike signing off today, and please have a great day today and love one another, will you?